I'd like to say that Muhammad is the prophet, like Moses, spoken of in the book of Deuteronomy. William Montgomery Watt writes, in his book Muslim-Christian Encounters on page 36, the passage in Deuteronomy, in chapter 18, verses 14 to 19, in which Moses says to the Israelites that God will raise up for them from among their brothers a prophet like himself, seem to state a general principle, namely, that when God's people need divine guidance or other help, God will send a prophet to give them that. This principle could be taken to be fulfilled in a whole series of prophets who, through many centuries, guided the Israelites. The later Jews thought it applied to the coming of the Messiah, and it was taken in this sense by the early Christians and applied to Jesus in Acts chapter 3, verse 22 and forward. From this standpoint, a Christian can admit that in a sense it also applies to Muhammad. Now, was the prophet Muhammad like the prophet Moses? The Collins Gem Dictionary of the Bible by Reverend James Dow states on pages 402 to 403, as a statesman and lawgiver, Moses is the creator of the Jewish people. He found a loose conglomeration of Semitic people, none of whom had been anything but a slave, and whose ideas of religion were a complete confusion. He led them out and he hammered them into a nation with a law and a national pride, and a compelling sense of being chosen by a particular God who was supreme. The only man in history who can be compared even remotely to him is Mahomet. I've tried to pronounce it the way he spelled it. So, ladies and gentlemen, I submit to you that according to these Christian scholars, it is easy to see that Muhammad was the prophet like Moses that is spoken about in that passage in Deuteronomy, even if previously that passage was understood in some way as referring to Christ.